The police knocked on my door at 3 a.m. "You're under arrest for financial fraud," they said. My daughter stood behind them crying or pretending to. I didn't resist, just let them cuff me. At the station, an officer checked my file, then froze. He called his superior, speaking in a low voice. 20 minutes later, I was taken into a private room. The air felt heavy. Less than an hour later, someone walked in, looked at me, then ordered everything to stop. And in that moment, everything shifted. I truly appreciate you being here with me. Before we continue, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. Please note, some elements are dramatized for storytelling and educational value, and any resemblance to real people or places is purely coincidental. I'm Robert Kane, 63 years old. I live alone in a modest 2-story house 3 blocks from Miami Beach. The kind of place where you can hear the ocean if you open the windows at night. I've lived here for 18 years, raised my daughter here, buried my wife from here. And at 3 a.m. on March 19, 2024, 2 detectives showed up to take me away. I didn't rush. I pulled on a pair of jeans, a white t-shirt, and my old running shoes, the ones with the worn-out soles I keep meaning to replace. Then I walked downstairs, turned on the porch light, and opened the door. 2 men stood on my doorstep, both in cheap suits that had seen better days. The older one, mid-40s, graying at the temples, hard eyes, held up a badge. "Robert Kane, that's me. Detective James Morrison, Miami PD. This is my partner, Detective Elena Rodriguez." He gestured to the woman beside him, late 30s, dark hair pulled back tight, the kind of cop who doesn't smile on the job. "We have a warrant for your arrest." I nodded, didn't ask what for, didn't protest. I just said, "Let me grab my wallet." Morrison's hand went to his hip, not his weapon, but close enough to send a message. "We'll get your belongings at the station, Mr. Kane. Right now, we need you to turn around and place your hands behind your back." I did. The metal cuffs clicked around my wrists, cold, tight. I felt them before 30 years ago during DEA training. But that was different. That was practice. This was real, and standing behind the 2 detectives, half hidden in the shadows of my driveway, was my daughter, Sophia, 32 years old. Long, dark hair, designer coat heels that cost more than most people's rent. Her face was red and puffy, eyes swollen like she'd been crying for hours. She clutched a tissue in one hand and stared at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Grief, guilt, relief. I didn't say anything to her. She didn't say anything to me. Detective Rodriguez read me my rights, the usual script. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you." I wasn't listening. I was watching Sophia. She looked away. They walked me to the patrol car parked at the curb, a white Ford with the Miami PD logo on the side. Morrison opened the back door, put his hand on my head to guide me in. Standard procedure. I sat down and the door slammed shut. Through the window, I saw Sophia still standing there, tissue pressed to her face, shoulders shaking. She was good. I'll give her that. She'd always been good at playing the victim. The engine started, and we pulled away from the house. The streetlights blurred past. The clock on the dashboard read 3:07 a.m. The ride to the station took 18 minutes. I know because I counted everyone. Morrison drove. Rodriguez sat in the passenger seat typing something on her phone. Neither of them spoke to me. I didn't expect them to. Cops don't make small talk with suspects in the back of a patrol car. I kept my eyes on the rearview mirror. I could see Morrison's face reflected there, stone-cold professional doing his job. But every few minutes I caught him glancing at me. Not suspicious, more like cautious, like he wasn't sure what he'd just arrested. We pulled into the station at 3:25 a.m., a squat concrete building on the edge of downtown Miami, the kind of place that looks exactly like every police station in every city in America. Fluorescent lights, scuffed floors, the smell of burnt coffee and old paperwork. They walked me through the side entrance past a couple of uniforms who didn't even look up and into the booking area. "Officer Parker," Morrison called out, a young cop, mid-20s, buzz cut. Fresh-faced, looked up from behind the desk. "Yeah, detective. We've got a booking. Robert Kane. Financial crimes, money laundering, abuse allegations." Parker nodded, grabbed a clipboard and waved me over. "All right, Mr. Kane. Let's get you processed." They took my photo first front and side holding a card with a case number I didn't bother reading. Then my fingerprints. 10 fingers, one at a time, pressed onto the digital scanner. That's when everything changed. Parker was halfway through scanning my right hand when the computer screen flashed. Not a normal red, a warning red. Big block letters appeared across the screen. Level 5. Classified file. Federal clearance required. Do not proceed. Parker froze. Stared at the screen. Looked at me. Looked back at the screen. Detective Morrison." Morrison walked over, frowning. "What's the problem?" Parker pointed at the screen. "I've never seen this before. His file's flagged federal. It won't let me access it." Morrison leaned in, read the warning, and his frown deepened. He pulled out his phone, stepped away, and made a call. I couldn't hear what he said, but his voice had that clipped, urgent tone cops use when something's gone sideways. Rodriguez joined him. They talked in low voices, glancing back at me every few seconds. I sat on the bench, hands still cuffed, and waited. 5 minutes later, a man in uniform, mid-50s, barrel-chested commander's insignia on his collar, strode into the booking area like he owned the place. Captain William Brennan. I didn't know him, but I knew the type. Career cop. By the book. The kind of guy who doesn't like surprises. "Morrison," Brennan barked. "What the hell's going on?" Morrison gestured to the screen. "We brought in a suspect routine fraud case, but his file's locked. Level 5 federal clearance. We can't process him." Brennan walked over to the screen, read the warning, and his jaw tightened. He turned to look at me. "Mr. Kane," he said slowly, "who exactly are you?" I met his eyes. Didn't smile. Didn't flinch. "It's someone you should have run a background check on before you sent 2 detectives to my house at 3 a.m. Brennan's face went red. He pulled Morrison aside, and they had a heated conversation I couldn't quite hear. Words like federal, jurisdiction, and classified floated back to me. Finally, Brennan turned to Parker. "Move him to interview room 2. No one talks to him until we figure out what's going on." Parker nodded, helped me to my feet, and led me down a narrow hallway to a small, windowless room with a metal table and 2 chairs. He uncuffed me, gestured to one of the chairs, and left. The door clicked shut. The lock turned. I sat down, leaned back, and closed my eyes. Outside, I could hear voices. Sophia's high and frantic. Morrison's calm and professional. Brennan's annoyed and confused. They had no idea what they just walked into. But they were about to find out. Because within 20 minutes, someone very powerful was on their way to that police station. DEA Director Michael Torres walked into interview room 2 at 4:22 a.m. I heard him before I saw him, the sharp click of dress shoes on linoleum, then the lock turning. The door swung open. He looked exactly the same as 3 years ago at my retirement ceremony. Mid-50s. Silver hair cropped military short. Dark suit. The kind of man who walks into a room, and everyone else instinctively straightens their spine. He closed the door behind him. Didn't sit down. Just stood there, arms crossed, staring at me with those cold, calculating eyes. "Reaper," he said quietly. That name. I hadn't heard it in years. "Director," I replied. Torres pulled out the chair across from me and sat down slowly. Outside, I could hear Captain Brennan barking orders, Detective Morrison asking questions. Sophia's voice high and frantic, demanding to know what was happening. Torres ignored all of it. "You want to tell me?" he said, voice low and even. Why, I just got a call at 4 in the morning, telling me one of my former agents, a man with a level 5 clearance file, was arrested for financial crimes. I leaned back in my chair. Because I needed her to think she'd won. His eyebrows went up a fraction. Her, my daughter, Torres, didn't react. 30 years in federal law enforcement teaches you not to show surprise. But I saw the slight tightening around his eyes. Start from the beginning, he said. So I did. It started with the coffee back in November. I've always been a creature of habit. Wake up at 6, brew a pot of dark roast, read the news while the sun comes up over Biscayne Bay. Same routine for 18 years. But early last November, something changed. The coffee tasted off, bitter, metallic. Then came the headaches, dull, persistent, like someone was squeezing my skull from the inside. Then the nausea. Mornings were the worst. By mid-November, I knew. Someone was putting something in my coffee. Old instincts kicked in. 30 years as a DEA agent, most of it undercover hunting cartel suppliers across 3 continents, you learn to trust your gut. And my gut was screaming at me, so I called in an old favor. 2 days later, a package arrived. 6 micro-surveillance cameras inside, military grade, lenses the size of shirt buttons, motion activated, impossible to detect unless you know exactly what you're looking for. I installed them everywhere. Smoke detector above the kitchen counter, picture frame on the wall, base of the coffee maker. Then I waited. I kept drinking the coffee or pretending to. I'd pour half down the sink when no one was looking, rinse the cup, leave it in the dishwasher like I'd finished the whole thing. I needed whoever was doing this to think their plan was working. 3 days later, I reviewed the footage. The timestamp read 6:47 a.m. The kitchen was empty. The coffee maker hissed and gurgled, finishing its cycle. Then the side door opened. Sophia walked in. My daughter, 32 years old, wearing yoga pants and an oversized sweatshirt, the casual outfit that said, I just woke up, I'm stopping by to check on Dad. She walked straight to the coffee maker. Didn't pour herself a cup. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small plastic baggie. White powder inside. She glanced toward the hallway, listened. Then she opened the baggie, tapped powder into my coffee mug sitting on the counter, and stirred it with a spoon. She put the baggie back, rinsed the spoon, walked out the side door. Total time 43 seconds. I watched that video 11 times. Each time I told myself I was wrong, that there was some explanation, that my daughter, the girl I'd raised, the woman I'd put through law school, wasn't trying to eliminate me. But the camera doesn't lie. Jesus, Torres muttered. I nodded. I didn't drink it. Kept pouring it out every morning. Let her think it was working. Why didn't you come to us immediately? I met his eyes. Because if we'd arrested her in November, what would we have? One charge? Maybe 15 years. But I knew Sophia. She doesn't do anything halfway. If she was willing to do this, there was more. I needed to know what and who else was involved. Torres leaned back. So you let her keep trying? I did. And I gathered evidence. I reached into my pocket slowly and pulled out a small flash drive. I slid it across the table. 47 hours of audio recordings, I said. 200 photos, bank records, transaction histories, everything. Torres picked up the drive. What am I going to find on here? Proof that my daughter didn't just try to eliminate me. She stole my identity, opened credit accounts in my name, $300,000 worth, forged my signature to sell my house for $1.2 million, hired a criminal named Diego Reyes to sabotage my car and stage a gas leak, recruited 3 people to lie under oath, and planned to disappear to the Cayman Islands with all of it. Torres's jaw tightened. A coordinated conspiracy. Yes. And if we'd grabbed her in November, Diego would have run. The fake witnesses would have vanished. The money would have disappeared into offshore accounts we'd never trace. But if we let her file charges against me, If we let her stand there and watch them put me in handcuffs, then she'd get confident. Sloppy. Everyone involved would still be in Miami waiting for their cut. Torres stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. Just a slight twitch at the corner of his mouth. You always did play the long game, Reaper. 30 years in the field teaches you patience. He stood up, pocketing the flash drive. How many people? 7 total. Sophia. Diego Reyes, her boyfriend, gang ties. 3 fake witnesses she paid off. And a lawyer named Philip Harlow who's been moving the money. Larson's Woody. Sophia's condo in South Beach. Diego's in Brickell. The witnesses are scattered. Addresses are on the drive. Torres pulled out his phone. Give me 5 minutes. He stepped outside. I heard his voice through the door, calm, clipped, issuing orders. 3 phone calls, each one short and direct. When he came back in, he checked his watch. 4:30, he said. FBI's moving now. 4 teams. They'll hit all 7 locations simultaneously. I exhaled slowly. For the first time in 4 months, the weight lifted. Thank you, I said quietly. Torres looked at me, and for just a second, the hardened federal director disappeared. In his place was the man I'd worked with for 15 years, the one who'd pulled me out of a burning safe house in Medellin, the one who'd stood beside me at my wife's funeral. You're one of the best agents I ever trained, Robert, he said. I'm sorry it came to this. Me too. He opened the door, gestured to Captain Brennan outside. Captain Mr. Kane is no longer under arrest. Release him immediately, Brennan sputtered. But the charges are fabricated. The real criminals are about to be in federal custody. Brennan looked at me, then at Torres, then nodded slowly. Torres turned back to me. Stay here. When the arrests are done, I'll need your statement. I'll be here. He walked out. I sat alone in interview room 2, listening to the chaos outside. Sophia demanding answers. Morrison trying to calm her down. Brennan shouting into his phone. And somewhere across Miami, 4 FBI teams were moving into position. The trap was closing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. 3 days after I watched that video of Sophia, the one where she stood in my kitchen at 6:47 in the morning and calmly added white powder to my coffee, I realized something. The video was damning, but it wasn't enough. Any halfway decent defense attorney would argue the footage was unclear, that the powder could have been sugar or creamer or some herbal supplement, that I was a paranoid old man with a grudge. I needed proof, scientific, irrefutable proof. And to get that, I needed a sample of whatever she was using. The problem was access. Sophia didn't live with me. She had her own place, a sleek 1-bedroom condo in South Beach, 15 minutes from my house. She'd moved out 6 years ago, right after law school. We stayed close, or at least I thought we did. She'd stop by twice a week. We'd have coffee, talk about work, normal father-daughter stuff. Except now I knew those coffee visits weren't normal at all. I couldn't just break into her apartment. That would contaminate any evidence I found. Chain of custody matters in court. Any lawyer worth their salt would get it thrown out. So I had to do this the right way. Turns out I already had the key. 8 years ago, when Sophia first moved into that building, she'd given me an emergency key. Standard procedure for a single woman living alone in a big city. Just in case, Dad, she'd said, if something happens and you need to check on me. The key was registered with the building manager's office. I was listed as her emergency contact. I'd never used it. Until now. On December 1st, I drove to her building just after 9 in the morning. I knew her schedule. She left for the law firm at 8:30 every weekday, didn't come home until 6. Plenty of time. I walked into the lobby like I belonged there. Nodded to the doorman, a guy named Luis. I'd met a few times when I'd picked Sophia up for dinner. Morning, Mr. Kane, he said. Visiting Sophia. She asked me to grab something from her place. I lied smoothly. Work emergency. She gave me the spare key. Luis waved me through. No questions asked. I took the elevator to the 4th floor. Her apartment was at the end of the hall, 4D. I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and closed it behind me. The place was pristine. Expensive furniture. Modern art on the walls. Everything arranged just so. It looked like a showroom, not a home. Then again, Sophia had always been like that. Image mattered to her. Appearances. I walked straight to the bathroom. If she was keeping something she didn't want anyone to find, it would be there. People always think bathrooms are private, safe. I opened the medicine cabinet above the sink. Toothpaste, face cream, makeup, birth control pills. And in the back, behind a bottle of ibuprofen, a small plastic baggie. White powder inside, maybe 2 tablespoons worth. I pulled a latex glove from my pocket, old DEA habit, and carefully removed the baggie. I opened it just enough to pour a small amount into a glass vial I'd brought with me. Sealed it. Put the baggie back exactly where I'd found it. Then I left. Locked the door, took the elevator down, waved goodbye to Luis. The whole thing took 11 minutes. That afternoon, I shipped the vial to an old colleague, Dr. Helen Vasquez, a toxicologist, who used to run the DEA's lab in Quantico. She'd retired 2 years ago and moved to Virginia, but we'd stayed in touch. She owed me a favor from a case back in 2011. I called it in. "Helen," I said when she answered, "I need you to test something for me." Quietly. She didn't ask questions. That's why I liked her. 4 days later, on December 5th, my phone rang. "Robert," Helen said, her voice tight. "Where did you get this, what is it, arsenic trioxide? AS203. It's a chemical compound, highly dangerous. Slow-acting. If someone's ingesting this regularly, it'll cause kidney failure, liver damage, neurological issues. Death within 8 to 12 months, depending on dosage." My stomach turned. "You're sure?" "Positive. I ran the test 3 times. This isn't something you find by accident, Robert. Whoever has this knows exactly what they're doing." I thanked her, hung up, sat in my car for 20 minutes staring at nothing. My daughter was trying to eliminate me. Not in a fit of rage, not impulsively. She'd planned it. She was dosing me slowly, methodically, waiting for my body to break down so it would look natural. An old man with failing organs. No one would question it. But now I had proof. I started full surveillance the next day. Not just cameras in my house, I needed to know what Sophia was doing when she wasn't with me. Where she went. Who she talked to. What she was planning. I parked outside her building. Followed her to work. Watched her during lunch breaks. It was tedious. Exhausting. But I'd done this kind of work for 30 years. I knew how to stay invisible. On December 10th, I followed her to a rooftop bar on Ocean Drive. Upscale place, string lights, ocean breeze. The kind of spot where Miami's young professionals go to be seen. Sophia walked in at 7:30, wearing a black dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. She sat at a corner table overlooking the water. 10 minutes later, a man joined her. I was 50 feet away, sitting at the bar with a beer I wasn't drinking, wearing a baseball cap and sunglasses. Just another tourist. But I had a clear line of sight. The man was younger than me, late 20s maybe. Muscular, dark hair slicked back. He wore a leather jacket and jeans, and his forearms were covered in tattoos. Not the trendy kind. The kind you get in certain circles. Gang Inc. They kissed. Not a polite greeting. A real kiss. So Sophia had a boyfriend. That was news to me. She'd never mentioned him. I pulled out my phone and snapped a few photos. Then I activated the directional microphone. I'd brought a piece of DEA tech I'd, let's say, borrowed before I retired. Aimed it at their table. The device picked up sound from 100 feet away, filtered out background noise, and fed the audio straight into my earpiece. "Shucks, I can't keep waiting," the man was saying. His voice was rough, impatient. "You said this would be done by Thanksgiving. It takes time. Sophia replied. She sounded calm, in control. He's old. It has to look natural. Unnatural doesn't pay the bills, baby. We need that money. We'll get it. The house alone is worth $1.2 million, plus his pension, his savings, all of it. We just have to be patient. The man leaned back, shaking his head. I don't like it. Too many variables. What if he figures it out? Sophia laughed, actually laughed. He won't. He's too trusting, too old-fashioned. He still thinks I'm his little girl. Something cold settled in my chest. And if he does, the man pressed. Sophia shrugged. Then we moved to plan B, which is, we make it faster. They talked for another 20 minutes. I recorded every word. When they finally left separately 10 minutes apart, I ran the man's face through a database I still had access to. Old DEA contacts, favors owed. His name was Diego Mateo Reyes, 28 years old. 2 priors, 1 for assault, 1 for fraud. Known associate of a street crew called Los Fantasmas. Small-time criminals, mostly drug running and extortion in the Brickell area. So my daughter was planning to eliminate me for money, and she'd recruited a criminal to help her do it. I sat in my car that night staring at Diego's mugshot on my phone and realized something. This wasn't just about Sophia anymore. This was bigger. Diego wasn't working alone, guys like him never do. There'd be others. Accomplices. People helping move money, forge documents, cover tracks. If I went to the police now, I might get Sophia. Maybe Diego. But the rest, they'd scatter. Disappear. And I'd never know the full scope of what she'd planned. No. I needed to see the whole picture first. Every player, every piece of the conspiracy. I needed help. On December 15th, I made a call to a man I'd worked with on a cartel case back in 2014. Marcus Reed, former FBI, now a private investigator, one of the best in Miami. Marcus, I said when he answered. I need you to dig into someone for me. Quietly, thoroughly. I'll pay whatever it costs. Who's the target? He asked. I hesitated, then said it. My daughter. There was a long silence on the other end. Bert, Marcus said slowly. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. All right, send me everything you've got. I'll start tomorrow. I hung up, looked out at the Miami skyline glittering in the December night. The pieces were falling into place. But I needed to know everything. Because if I was going to take down my own daughter, I was going to do it right. 6 weeks later, on February 1st, Marcus Reed handed me a file 2 inches thick. We met at his office, a cramped second-floor space above a bail bondsman on Calle Ocho, the kind of place where the air conditioning barely works and the coffee tastes like burnt rubber. But Marcus didn't care about appearances. He cared about results. He was 60 years old, former FBI white-collar crimes division, 25 years on the job before he retired and opened his own shop. Gray beard, sharp eyes that missed nothing, hands that had flipped through more evidence files than most cops see in a lifetime. His desk was buried under case folders, sticky notes, coffee-stained legal pads, organized chaos. He slid the file across the desk toward me. You were right, he said. No greeting, no small talk. Marcus didn't waste words. Your daughter's not just trying to eliminate you. She's trying to steal your entire life. I opened the file. The first page was a financial summary. Clean, professional, devastating. Identity theft. Comprehensive report. Subject, Sophia Marie Kane. Target, Robert James Kane. Investigation period. December 15th, 2023 to January 31st, 2024. I flipped through the pages. Bank statements, credit reports, forged documents, transaction histories. Every page was another piece of the puzzle I'd been missing. Walk me through it, I said. Marcus leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. She opened 5 credit card accounts in your name. Started in October, 2 months before you noticed the coffee thing. Used your social security number, date of birth, employment history. Applied online, had the card sent to a P.O. box in Coral Gables, registered under a fake business name. How much? Total credit limit across all 5 cards, $300,000. I felt my jaw tighten, and she maxed them out. Not all at once. She was smart about it. Took cash advances in small amounts, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, so the banks wouldn't flag it as suspicious. By mid-January, she'd pulled out $180,000 in cash. Where'd the money go? Marcus flipped to a page marked with a yellow tab. Bank transfer receipts. Offshore account numbers. January 22nd. She wired the full 180 to an account in the Cayman Islands. Offshore bank, minimal oversight, nearly impossible to trace without federal warrants. The account's under a shell company called Meridian Holdings, LLC. Registered agent is a law firm in Georgetown. Total shell game. I stared at the numbers on the page. My daughter had stolen $180,000 from me and hidden it in a place I'd never be able to touch. And I hadn't even known until now. There's more, Marcus said. He pulled out another document. I recognized it immediately, a power of attorney form. Legal authorization to act on someone else's behalf. Sign contracts. Make financial decisions. Sell property. Except I'd never signed it. She forged this. Yep. Used your signature from old documents, probably scanned it, printed it, practiced until she got it perfect. Then she got it notarized. By who? A guy named Gerald Thompson. Notary public in Hialeah. I ran him down yesterday. Turns out he's Diego's cousin. He'll stamp anything for $500, no questions asked. Of course, Diego's network. I should have expected that. What did she use the power of attorney for? Marcus pulled out the final document. A real estate contract. My house. The one I'd lived in for 18 years. The one where I'd raised Sophia. The one where my wife had spent her last days. Sophia had put it up for sale. February 1st. Today this contract was filed with a real estate agency in South Beach, Marcus explained. Listing price $1.2 million. Buyer already lined up some investment group out of Boca Raton. Closing date set for March 15th. I looked up at him. She's selling my house out from under me, and you wouldn't even know until the closing date. By then the sale would be finalized, the money transferred to her offshore account, and she and Diego would be on a plane to the Caymans. You'd come home one day and find out you don't own your house anymore. I set the document down carefully. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, from anger. Controlled anger. The kind I'd learned to manage over 30 years in the field. The kind that doesn't explode. It calculates. She thought of everything, I said quietly. She tried, Marcus replied. But she made mistakes. Used Diego's cousin for the notary that's traceable. Wired money in one lump sum instead of breaking it up, that's flaggable. Filed the house sale contract 2 weeks before closing, that's arrogant. She got confident. Sloppy. Good. Marcus studied me for a moment. You're not surprised by any of this? No. Most people, if they found out their kid was doing this to them, they'd fall apart. You're sitting there like you're reading a weather report. I met his eyes. I've spent the last 3 months watching my daughter try to eliminate me. Identity theft. That's just another Tuesday. Marcus shook his head slowly. Robert, I've been doing this work for 15 years. I've seen embezzlement, fraud, extortion, you name it. But a daughter systematically destroying her father's life for money, that's a new one. What's the total damage? I asked. He flipped to the summary page. $300,000 in fraudulent debt under your name. $1.2 million from the house sale if it goes through. Plus whatever she can pull from your pension and savings accounts once you're gone. Conservatively, she stands to walk away with $2 million, maybe more. $2 million. That's what my life was worth to her. She's not working alone, I said, obviously. Diego's involved, he's the muscle, the connection to the criminal network. The notary, the offshore bank, contacts the shell company setup. She's got a whole team. I need names. I'm working on it. Diego's got ties to a street crew called Los Fantasmas, like I told you. Small-time guys, but they know people. Forgers, money, launderers, corrupt lawyers. I've got feelers out. Give me another week. What about Sophia's movements? Is she still seeing Diego? Every other night, usually at his place in Brickell. She's careful, parks 2 blocks away, uses the back entrance. But I've got photos, timestamps, everything. Good. Keep watching her. I need to know everyone she talks to, everyone she meets, every transaction she makes. Marcus nodded. You got it. But Robert, I gotta ask, what's your endgame here? You've got enough evidence right now to have her arrested for identity theft, fraud, forgery. You could take this to the cops today. I stood up, buttoning my jacket. If I take this to the cops now, what do I get Sophia on fraud charges? Maybe Diego. But the rest of her network, they disappear. The offshore money gone. I'd win the battle and lose the war. So what's the play? I let her keep going. Let her think she's winning. Let her file whatever charges she's planning to file. And when she does, when she's committed, when everyone involved thinks they're about to get paid, that's when we take all of them down at once. Marcus leaned back, a slow smile spreading across his face. You sneaky old man. You're using yourself as bait. 30 years hunting cartel bosses taught me one thing, Marcus. You don't go after the street dealers. You wait. You watch. You let them lead you to the kingpin. Then you take down the whole operation. And Sophia's the kingpin. She is. But she's not the only player. I need to know who else is involved. Who's helping her move the money? Who's creating the fake documents? Who's planning to testify against me when she makes her move? You think she's got people lined up to lie for her? I know she does. A woman doesn't plan something this elaborate without covering all her bases. There'll be witnesses. Fake ones, probably. People she's paid to say I'm unstable, dangerous, abusive. She needs a story that holds up in court. Marcus nodded slowly. I'll dig into her associates. Bank records, phone logs, emails if I can get access. Do it. I need a full picture before we move. I picked up the file, tucked it under my arm. At the door, I turned back. Marcus, thank you. I know this isn't easy. He waved me off. You paid me well. Besides, after 25 years in the bureau, I thought I'd seen everything. Your daughter proved me wrong. I want to see how this ends. You will. I walked out into the Miami afternoon. The sun was bright, the air thick with humidity. I sat in my car for a long time, the file on the passenger seat, and stared at nothing. $300,000 in debt. A house stolen. An offshore account. A daughter who looked at me and saw nothing but a paycheck. I had the evidence, but I needed more. I needed to know who else was involved. Because when I finally made my move, I wasn't leaving anyone behind. A week later, on February 8th, I decided to make a move. I walked into Miller & Associates, the downtown Miami law firm where Sophia worked, and asked the receptionist if I could see my daughter. The building was all glass and chrome. 30th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Biscayne Bay. The kind of place where every surface gleamed and everyone wore suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Sophia had done well for herself here. Junior associate, corporate law, 6-figure salary, all funded by the education I'd paid for. The receptionist, a young woman with perfect makeup and a professional smile, picked up the phone. Mr. Kane is here to see you, she said into the receiver. A pause. Then, yes, ma'am, she hung up. She'll be right out. I stood by the window watching the traffic crawl along Brickell Avenue 30 stories below and waited. 5 minutes later, Sophia emerged from a hallway. Black pantsuit, hair pulled back, confident stride. She looked every inch the successful attorney. No one would have guessed she was planning to eliminate her father and steal $2 million. Desno, she said, smiling. The same smile she'd given me my whole life. Warm, affectionate, fake. What are you doing here? We need to talk, I said. Somewhere private. Her smile didn't waver, but I saw something flicker in her eyes. Calculation. She gestured toward a conference room. Of course. Follow me. The conference room was empty. Long table, leather chairs, whiteboard on one wall. Sophia closed the door behind us and turned to face me. Is everything okay? She asked. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the file Marcus had given me. Dropped it on the table. You tell me. She looked at the file, didn't touch it. What's that? Open it. She hesitated, then slowly picked it up and flipped through the first few pages. Bank statements, credit card applications, the forged power of attorney, the house sale contract. I watched her face. Most people, when confronted with evidence of their crimes, react in one of two ways. They either break down, cry, confess, beg for forgiveness, or they double down, deny everything, go on the offensive. Sophia chose option 2. She closed the file and set it back on the table. Looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Hard. Nothing behind her eyes but contempt. Where did you get this? She asked quietly. Does it matter? These documents are fake. No, Sophia, they're not. Yes, they are. Her voice was calm, measured, like she was explaining something to a child. Someone's been forging documents in my name, trying to frame me. And you, she shook her head. You believed them. I'd been a federal agent for 30 years. I'd interrogated cartel lieutenants, money launderers, corrupt politicians. I knew gaslighting when I saw it. I have video of you putting poison in my coffee, I said. That's not poison. That was a supplement. Turmeric. For your inflammation. I was trying to help you. I had it tested, arsenic trioxide. Then whoever tested it lied to you. The credit cards. I didn't open those. The house sale. I never signed that. Your signature is on the power of attorney. Then someone forged it. She leaned forward. Dad, listen to me. You're being paranoid. This isn't like you. Have you been feeling okay, confused, forgetful? There it was. The setup. I'm fine, Sophia. Late are you because this, she gestured to the file. This sounds like someone who's not thinking clearly. Maybe you should see a doctor. Get checked out. Memory issues can be serious at your age. At my age. She was already building the narrative. The confused old man, the unreliable father, the victim of his own declining mental state. I'm not confused, I said evenly. And I'm not paranoid. I know exactly what you're doing. What am I doing, Dad? You're trying to eliminate me and steal everything I own. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she laughed. Actually laughed. You really believe that, don't you? I have proof. You have fake documents and conspiracy theories. She picked up her phone. I think we should call someone. A doctor. Maybe a psychiatrist. Someone who can help you. Put the phone down, Sophia. Dad, you need help. I know about Diego. She froze, just for a second. Then recovered. Who's Diego? The man you're planning to run away with. The man you've been paying to help you forge documents and move money offshore. The man whose cousin notarized your fake power of attorney. Her face remained perfectly blank. But I saw her jaw tighten. I don't know anyone named Diego. You meet him every other night at his apartment in Brickell. You kiss him. You talk about how much money you're going to steal from me. You laugh about how trusting I am. That's insane. I have photos, audio recordings, bank transfers, everything. She set her phone down slowly. For the first time since we'd entered the room, the mask slipped. Just a fraction. Enough for me to see the real Sophia underneath. The one who looked at me and saw nothing but an obstacle. If you had any of that, she said quietly, you'd have gone to the police already. Maybe I will. No, you won't, she smiled. A different smile now. Sharp, cruel. Because if you do, I'll tell them everything. How you've been harassing me, following me, breaking into my apartment, making wild accusations, threatening me. I haven't threatened you. That's not what my witnesses will say. There it was. The trap she'd been building. What witnesses? People who've seen your behavior. People who'll testify that you're unstable, violent, delusional. She ticked them off on her fingers. Linda Morrison, a woman you tried to defraud in a fake investment scheme. Margaret Wells, our neighbor who's heard you screaming at me making threats. Dr. Sarah Palmer, a respected psychiatrist who'll confirm you're suffering from dementia. I kept my face neutral. But inside, something cold settled in my chest. She'd lined up fake witnesses, 3 of them, ready to lie under oath. None of those people will hold up in court, I said. Won't they? Linda's an actress, very convincing. Margaret's a sweet old lady, juries love her. And Dr. Palmer used to be a licensed psychiatrist. Sure, she lost her license a few years ago, but that just makes her sympathetic. A struggling professional trying to help an old man in decline. She leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. So here's what's going to happen, Dad. You're going to sign over your assets to me, the house, the pension, the savings accounts, all of it. And in return, I won't file charges. I won't drag you through court. I won't put you in front of a judge and a jury and prove to the world that you're a confused, paranoid old man who needs to be in a facility. And if I don't, her smile widened, then you'll regret it. I stood up, picked up the file, looked at her one last time. We'll see. I walked out. Behind me, I heard her call out, "You can't win this, Dad." I've thought of everything. Maybe she had, but so had I. I left the building, got in my car, and drove home. My phone rang as I was pulling into my driveway. Marcus. Boss. He said, I've got something. Sophia just purchased 2 one-way tickets to the Cayman Islands. Departure date March 20th, 5 days after the house closing. 2 tickets. Show her and Diego. They're planning to disappear the second the money clears. I sat in my car, staring at my house, the house Sophia was planning to sell in 5 weeks, and felt a strange kind of calm settle over me. She'd shown her hand, the fake witnesses, the escape plan, the timeline. Now I knew everything. And I keep watching her, I told Marcus. I want to know every move she makes. You got it. What's your next step? I'm going to let her think she's winning. I hung up. We spent the next week building our counterattack, documenting everything, preparing evidence, coordinating with Torres, setting the trap. But Sophia wasn't going to wait. What she did next almost ended me. If you're still here, comment "still here" so I know you're with me. And tell me if you realized someone you trusted was setting you up for something dangerous like this. Would you confront them immediately? Or stay quiet and wait for the right moment? Please note the next part may include some dramatized elements for storytelling purposes. If you'd rather not continue, you can stop watching. February 12th, 4 days after I walked out of her office, 7:15 in the morning. I was driving south on I-95 when it happened. The highway was busy, typical Miami rush hour. 3 lanes packed with commuters heading downtown. I was in the middle lane doing 70 miles per hour on my way to meet Marcus Reed at a diner in Coconut Grove. We were finalizing the evidence package, everything we'd need when the time came to take Sophia down. Torres and I had spent the past week coordinating. The plan was simple: I'd be the bait. Let Sophia file whatever charges she was planning. Let her think she'd won. Then, the moment she committed, the moment everyone involved thought they were about to get paid, The FBI would move. Simultaneous raids, 7 targets, clean sweep. But first I had to survive long enough to see it happen. I was passing the Brickell exit when I saw brake lights ahead. Traffic slowing. A delivery truck merging from the right lane. I moved my foot to the brake pedal, pressed down. Nothing. No resistance, no response. The pedal went straight to the floor like I was stepping on air. My car kept going, 70 miles per hour. Straight toward the truck that was now 20 feet in front of me. 15 feet, 10, 30 years of DEA training kicked in. No panic, no hesitation, just action. I yanked the emergency brake. The rear wheels locked. The car shuddered, fishtailed. I heard the squeal of tires on asphalt smelled burning rubber. Not enough. I was still going too fast. The truck was right there, 5 feet. I could see the driver's face in his side mirror oblivious. I cranked the wheel hard to the right. The car swerved across 2 lanes. Horns blared. Someone shouted. I cut in front of a sedan missing its front bumper by inches and aimed for the emergency lane. Gravel crunched under my tires. The car bounced, shook. I was still doing 40, 30, 20. I pulled the emergency brake harder. The car skidded sideways, kicking up a cloud of dust and debris, then stopped. I sat there, hands locked on the wheel, heart pounding, adrenaline screaming through my veins. Behind me, traffic flowed past, like nothing had happened. Just another day on I-95. I took 3 deep breaths. Let my hands stop shaking. Then I put the car in park, turned on the hazard lights, and got out. The morning sun was already brutal. Humidity thick enough to choke on. I walked around to the front of the car, crouched down and looked underneath. I didn't need to be a mechanic to see the problem. The brake line, the thin metal tube that carries hydraulic fluid from the master cylinder to the brakes, was severed. Not rusted through. Not worn out. Cut. Clean cut. Straight edge. Like someone had taken a sharp blade and sliced right through it. I pulled out my phone and called Marcus. "Reed, it's me. I need a mechanic. Someone you trust. Someone who won't ask questions." "What happened?" "Someone cut my brake lines. I just about didn't make it." There was a pause. Then Marcus swore. "Where are you?" "I-95 just past Brickell. Emergency lane. Stay there. I'll send someone. 20 minutes. He hung up. I stood on the side of the highway watching the traffic blur past and thought about what had just happened. Someone had crawled under my car probably last night while I was asleep and sabotaged it. Professional job. Precise. Clean. The kind of thing you learn if you've worked on cars in certain circles. Diego. Marcus had mentioned it in his report. Before Diego got involved with Sophia, he'd worked at a couple of shady auto shops, black market repairs, stolen parts, the kind of places where you don't ask questions and you pay in cash. Cutting brake lines, that was right in his wheelhouse, and Sophia knew it. This wasn't random. This wasn't panic. This was calculated. She'd waited 4 days after our confrontation, long enough for me to think maybe she'd backed off, maybe she was reconsidering, and then she'd made her move. If I'd been going faster, if traffic had been heavier, if I hadn't reacted in time, I'd be twisted metal and broken glass right now. Just another accident on I-95. Tragic. But not suspicious, and Sophia would have gotten everything. 22 minutes later, a tow truck pulled up behind me. The driver was a guy in his 50s, grease-stained coveralls, weathered hands. He didn't introduce himself. Just looked under my car, grunted and said, "Brake line's cut. You're lucky you're alive. Can you tow it?" "Yeah, where to?" "Somewhere safe, off the books." He nodded. "Reed said you'd say that. I got a shop in Opalaka. No cameras, no questions. Perfect." He hooked up the car. I climbed into the passenger seat of the tow truck. We didn't talk, just drove. An hour later, I was standing in his garage, a cramped, windowless space that smelled like motor oil and old cigarettes, watching him inspect the damage. "Professional job," he said, shining a flashlight under the car. "Cut with a box cutter or a sharp blade. Knew exactly where to hit it. Fluid drained slow enough that you wouldn't notice until you were on the highway. Can you fix it?" "Sure, but that's not the point, is it?" I shook my head. "No, it's not." He straightened up, wiped his hands on a rag. "You gonna call the cops?" "No." He raised an eyebrow. "Someone just tried to take you out. You're not gonna report it. So if I report it, the person who did this disappears. I need them to think they got away with it." He studied me for a long moment, then shrugged. "Your funeral?" "Hopefully not." He got to work. I called Marcus. "It was Diego," I said. "Professional cut. Mechanic confirmed it. You want me to have him picked up?" "No, not yet. If we grab him now, Sophia knows we're on to her. She goes to ground, the whole operation falls apart." "So what's the play?" "I upgrade my security. Install more cameras. Park in a garage instead of the driveway. And I keep playing the long game." "Robert, she just tried to end you. You sure you want to keep waiting?" I looked at the severed brake line on the garage floor. Thought about Sophia sitting in her office waiting for a phone call that would tell her I was gone. "I'm sure," I said. "Let her think she failed. Let her get desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. All right, but watch your back. Always." I hung up. That night, I installed 6 more cameras around my house. Motion sensor lights in the driveway. A security system that would alert my phone if anyone came within 50 feet of my car. I wasn't going to give her a second chance. Sophia had tried to take me out once. She'd failed. But I knew she wouldn't stop. She didn't stop. 2 nights later, on February 14th, Valentine's Day, my daughter tried to blow up my house. I woke up at 11:30 p.m. to the smell of gas. Not a faint leak. A heavy chemical stench that hit me like a wall the second I opened my eyes. The kind of smell that makes your survival instincts scream. I threw off the covers and stumbled downstairs. The smell was stronger in the kitchen. I flipped on the light and saw it immediately, the gas stove. All 4 burners turned to the off position, but the valve on the gas line behind the stove, the one that controls the flow from the main supply, was cranked wide open. Gas was pouring into the house. Here's the thing. Every night before bed, I shut off that main valve. Old habit from my years living in sketchy safe houses overseas. Gas leaks, electrical fires, those things happen. So I always double-check. I'd shut that valve at 10:30. I remembered doing it, which meant someone had opened it after I went to sleep. I didn't panic. Panic gets you ended. I moved fast, but controlled. Opened every window on the first floor. Unlocked the front door. Walked outside into the humid Miami night and called the gas company emergency line. "No, this is Robert Kane, 2247 Collins Avenue. I have a gas leak. Major. I need someone here now." They said 15 minutes. While I waited, I pulled out my phone and opened the security camera app. The new system I'd installed after the brake incident. 6 cameras, motion activated, cloud backup. I scrubbed backward through the footage. 11:30 p.m. me waking up. 11:15 nothing. 11 there. The back window. The one in the laundry room that faces the alley. A figure dressed in black, prying it open. Climbing through. Tall, broad shoulders. Moving with the confidence of someone who'd done this before. He went straight to the kitchen. I watched him crouch behind the stove, reach for the gas valve and turn it. All the way open. Then he stood, looked around, checking for cameras probably, and left the same way he'd come in. Total time inside my house, 2 minutes and 40 seconds. I zoomed in on the footage. The intruder wore a ski mask, but his hands were visible. Dark skin. Tattoos running up both forearms. Diego. I sat on my front steps, watching the footage loop on my phone, and did the math. If I hadn't woken up, If the gas had kept filling the house for another hour, if I'd gotten up to use the bathroom and flipped a light switch just one spark from the electrical circuit, the whole place would have gone up. Me inside, it would have looked like an accident. Tragic gas leak, faulty valve, old house, old pipes. No one would have questioned it. And Sophia would have gotten the insurance payout on top of everything else. The gas company arrived 20 minutes later. A technician in a yellow vest spent an hour checking lines, venting the house, making sure it was safe. He found the open valve behind the stove. "You're lucky," he said. "Another 30 minutes, and this whole place could have been a crater. You smell it in time." "Yeah, you shut this valve before bed. Every night." He frowned. "Then how'd it get opened?" I looked him in the eye. "I don't know. He didn't push it. Wrote up his report. Told me the house was safe now. Left. I went back inside, locked every door and window, and sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee I didn't drink. Second attempt. More aggressive, more dangerous. Sophia was escalating. I called Marcus. "It's me. Diego broke into my house tonight. Tried to gas me." "Jeez, you okay?" "I'm fine. I caught it in time. Got him on camera." "You calling the cops?" "No. Robert, if I call the cops, Diego gets arrested. Sophia lawyers up. The whole operation goes sideways. We stick to the plan." Marcus sighed. "You're playing a dangerous game." "I know. But we're close. She's going to make her move soon. I can feel it." "All right. I'll keep eyes on her. But if she tries again, she will. And next time I'll be ready." I hung up. 6 days later, on February 20th, Marcus called me with an update. "I've got something," he said. "Sophia and Diego. Meeting at a cafe in Brickell right now. You want to hear it? Send it to me." 5 minutes later, an audio file hit my phone. I plugged in my earbuds and pressed play. Marcus's directional microphone had picked up everything. Crystal clear. Diego's voice. "Can't keep trying and failing. The old man's still alive. We need a bigger plan." Sophia's voice. "We don't need a bigger plan. We need a legal one. I'm filing charges. Charges, fraud, abuse, financial exploitation. I've got 3 witnesses lined up. I've got documents. The police will believe me, not him. And if they don't, they will. I'm a lawyer. He's a paranoid old man with a history of working in dangerous places. Who do you think they're going to trust?" A pause. Then Diego again. "What about the money?" "The house closes March 15th. 1.2 million. Plus the 300,000 from the credit cards. That's 1.5 million total. We file charges against him March 18th. 3 days later, we're on a plane to the Caymans. By the time anyone figures out what happened, we'll be gone. And he'll be in jail. Or worse." They both laughed. I listened to that recording 3 times. Each time I felt the same cold, surgical calm settle over me. March 18th. That was the date. That was when she'd make her move. I forwarded the audio to Torres with a single message. 3 weeks. Get your teams ready." He replied 2 minutes later, "Roger that." The next 3 weeks were the longest of my life. I went through my daily routine, went to the gym, had coffee with Marcus, pretended everything was normal. Meanwhile, Torres coordinated with the FBI, finalized the raid plans, confirmed the targets, prepped the arrest warrants, and I waited. On March 15th, the house sale closed. $1.2 million transferred into an offshore account I'd never see again. Sophia had won, or so she thought. 3 days later, on March 18th at 10:30 in the morning, Sophia walked into Miami Police Department and filed formal charges against me. Fraud, money laundering, financial abuse, exploitation of a vulnerable adult. She brought documents, fake bank statements, forged emails, testimony from her 3 paid witnesses. The police took her statement, opened a case file, issued a warrant for my arrest. At 2:45 a.m. on March 19th, 5 hours after Sophia filed those charges, Detective Rodriguez called me. "Mr. Kane, we need you to come down to the station. We have some questions." I was already awake, dressed, waiting. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said, but I didn't go to the station. At 2:55 a.m., I texted Torres. "She's filed. They're coming. Go." At 3 a.m., exactly as we'd planned, there was a knock at my door. Detectives Morrison and Rodriguez. Sophia standing behind them, fake tears streaming down her face. I opened the door. Let them put me in handcuffs. Let them walk me to the patrol car. Sophia watched from the driveway. I didn't look at her, because I knew. At that exact moment, 4 FBI teams were moving into position across Miami. March 15th, the house sale closed. March 18th, Sophia filed charges. March 19th, the trap snapped shut. The hardest part wasn't the poison, the car, or the gas. The hardest part was the waiting. 3 weeks, February 15th to March 18th. 31 days of pretending everything was normal while I knew exactly what was coming. Most people think the dangerous part of undercover work is the gunfights, the chases, the moments when everything goes sideways. But anyone who's actually done the job will tell you the truth. The hardest part is patience. Waiting for the target to make their move. Staying calm while the clock ticks. Going through the motions of ordinary life while a storm builds on the horizon. I'd done it for 30 years in the DEA. I could do it for 3 more weeks. Marcus had a source inside Miller and Associates, someone in the administrative pool who owed him a favor. She told us why Sophia was waiting. It wasn't hesitation. It was logistics. Coordinating 3 fake witnesses takes time. You have to rehearse their stories, make sure the details line up, coach them on how to act in front of police. Sophia needed Linda, Margaret, and Dr. Palmer all ready to go. She also needed to finalize the offshore accounts. Moving $1.5 million isn't something you do with a single wire transfer. It requires shell companies, intermediary banks, routing numbers that don't trace back. Diego's connections could set it up, but it took time. And most importantly, she needed the house sale to close. March 15th. That was the date the money would hit the offshore account. Once that cleared, she'd file charges 3 days later, just enough time to make sure the funds were secure and untouchable. Then she and Diego would be on a plane to the Caymans on March 20th. And I'd be sitting in a jail cell trying to explain to a judge why my own daughter was accusing me of crimes I didn't commit. That was her plan, but I had a different one. During those 3 weeks, I lived my normal life. I woke up at 6 every morning. Made my own coffee, never touched anything Sophia brought over during her twice-weekly check-in visits. I'd pour it down the sink when she wasn't looking, rinse the cup, act like I'd finished it. She'd smile, ask how I was feeling, if I was sleeping okay. If I'd thought about signing over the assets like she'd suggested, I'd say I was fine, sleeping great, still thinking about it. And she'd leave convinced I was either too trusting or too far gone to see what was happening. I went to the gym, lifted weights, swam laps, kept my body sharp, kept my mind sharper. I met with Torres twice during those 3 weeks. Once at a federal building in downtown Miami, once at a safe house in Coral Gables. We finalized the raid plan. 4 FBI teams, 7 targets. Simultaneous arrests at 4:30 a.m. on the day Sophia filed charges. Sophia's condo in South Beach. Diego's apartment in Brickell. Linda Morrison's house in Coral Gables. Margaret Wells's townhouse in Pinecrest. Dr. Sarah Palmer's rental in Kendall. Philip Harlow's office downtown. And my house where I'd be sitting in an interview room at Miami PD waiting for Torres to walk in and shut the whole thing down. "You sure about this?" Torres asked me during our second meeting. We were sitting in a windowless room, blueprints and surveillance photos spread across the table. "I'm sure," I said. "If anything goes wrong, if Sophia changes her timeline, if Diego runs, If one of the witnesses talks, this whole operation falls apart. You'll be sitting in a cell with no backup plan." "I know. And you're okay with that?" I looked at him. "Michael, I've been building this case for 4 months. I've got video of her poisoning me, audio of her planning with Diego, financial records proving identity theft, testimony from Marcus, testimony from Dr. Vasquez, testimony from the mechanic who found my brake lines cut. I've got everything we need to bury her for 20 years. The only thing left is letting her commit to the final move." Torres studied me for a long moment. Then he nodded. "All right, March 18th. The second she files charges, we move. And if she files earlier, we adapt. But my guess, she'll wait until the house money clears. She's too smart to move before that." He was right. On March 15th, the house sale closed. $1.2 million transferred to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. I got a notification on my phone from the title company. The sale was final. My house, the one I'd lived in for 18 years, the one where I'd raised Sophia, the one where my wife had died, was gone. I sat on the back porch that night looking out at the bay and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness. Just a cold, clinical satisfaction. The trap was almost sprung. 3 days later, on March 18th at 10:30 in the morning, Sophia walked into Miami Police Department and filed formal charges against me. Fraud, money laundering, financial exploitation, abuse. She brought 3 witnesses. Linda Morrison, who testified I'd tried to defraud her in a fake investment scheme. Margaret Wells, who said I'd been violent and threatening towards Sophia. Dr. Sarah Palmer, who claimed I was suffering from dementia and was a danger to myself and others. She brought documents, forged bank statements, fake emails, a psychologist's report diagnosing me with cognitive decline. The desk officer took her statement, opened a case file, issued a warrant for my arrest. Detective Rodriguez called me at 2:45 a.m. on March 19th. "Mr. Kane," he said, his voice professional but not unkind. "We have a warrant for your arrest. We need you to come down to the station. We have some questions." I was already awake, already dressed. I'd been sitting at my kitchen table for 2 hours waiting for this call. "I'll be there in 20 minutes, I said. "Actually, sir, we're sending officers to bring you in. It's standard procedure." "I understand." I hung up. At 2:55 a.m., I sent a single text message to Torres, "They're coming." He replied immediately, "Go." At exactly 3 a.m., there was a knock on my door. Not a polite knock. The kind that says we're here on official business. I walked downstairs, turned on the porch light, opened the door. Detectives Morrison and Rodriguez stood on my doorstep. Behind them, half hidden in the shadows of my driveway, was Sophia. She was wearing a long coat designer heels makeup that made her look tired and vulnerable. Her eyes were red and puffy like she'd been crying for hours. She was good. I'll give her that. Morrison held up his badge. "Robert Kane, that's me. You're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and financial exploitation. Turn around and place your hands behind your back." I did. The metal cuffs clicked around my wrists. Cold. Tight. Rodriguez read me my rights. "You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." I wasn't listening. I was watching Sophia. She stood there, tissue pressed to her face, shoulders shaking. She thought she'd won. Morrison's hand on my shoulder guiding me toward the patrol car. Rodriguez opening the back door. I climbed in. The door slammed shut. Through the window, I saw Sophia still standing there, and I smiled, because at that exact moment, 400 miles away, Torres was making 3 phone calls, and 4 FBI teams were gearing up to move. They put me in handcuffs. My daughter watched, and I let them. While I was being processed at the station, 3 other raids were happening across Miami. I didn't see any of it. I was sitting in interview room 2 waiting for Torres to arrive. But later, after everything was done, he walked me through it, step by step. Every arrest. Every moment. This is what happened. At exactly 4:30 a.m., 4 FBI teams moved simultaneously. The first team hit Sophia's condo in South Beach. It's a high-rise building. 15th floor. Glass balcony overlooking the ocean. The kind of place you need a six-figure salary to afford. 6 agents. Full tactical gear. They took the elevator up, knocked once, loud and official, and when no one answered within 10 seconds, they used a battering ram on the door. The door crashed inward. Sophia was in the bedroom just waking up. She stumbled out in pajamas, hair disheveled, eyes wide with confusion. FBI hands where we can see them. She froze, stared at the agents like she couldn't process what was happening. What is this? What's going on? Sophia Kane, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and attempted. The lead agent paused, catching himself. For conspiracy to harm, you have the right to remain silent. They cuffed her, hands behind her back. She started screaming. This is insane. My father is the criminal. He's the one who should be arrested. Why are you doing this to me? One of the agents knelt down, started bagging evidence. Laptop from the desk. Phone from the nightstand. An accordion folder stuffed with financial documents. At 4:53 a.m., Sophia was led out of her building in handcuffs, still screaming about how this was all a mistake. 5 minutes earlier, at 4:35 a.m., the second team breached Diego's apartment in Brickell. Diego wasn't asleep. He was awake, sitting on his couch, staring at his phone. The moment he heard the door crash open, he ran. Not toward the front door that was blocked by agents, toward the balcony. 7th floor. Concrete below. But Diego wasn't thinking about that. He was thinking about the fire escape ladder 2 balconies over. He vaulted over the railing, grabbed the edge, started to swing toward the next balcony. FBI agent David Boyd, 6'2", former college linebacker, was faster. Boyd grabbed Diego by the back of his shirt mid-swing and yanked him back over the railing. They both hit the balcony floor hard. Diego threw a punch. Boyd blocked it, flipped Diego onto his stomach, and wrenched his arms behind his back. The whole thing took 2 minutes. Anehikastitum. Diego Mateo Reyes, you're under arrest for conspiracy, identity theft, and sabotage. You have the right to remain silent. Diego didn't say anything, just glared at Boyd, breathing hard. While Boyd cuffed him, 2 other agents searched the apartment. They found $47,000 in cash, rubber-banded and stashed in a gym bag in the closet. They found 2 handguns, a Glock 19, and a Sig Sauer P320 hidden under the couch cushions. They found a plastic bag with white powder residue. Field test came back positive for cocaine. At 5:10 a.m., Diego was walked out of his building in handcuffs, head down, silent. At 5:15 a.m., the third team knocked on Linda Morrison's door in Coral Gables. Linda answered in a bathrobe, coffee mug in hand. She looked at the 3 agents standing on her porch and went pale. Linda Morrison, yes. You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit perjury and fraud. Please put down the mug and turn around. She didn't resist, didn't say a word. Inside her house, agents found exactly what Marcus said they'd find: a contract, signed by Sophia Kane. $5,000 in exchange for testimony against Robert Kane. The contract even had a script, bullet points Linda was supposed to hit during her statement to police. He promised to invest my money. He said it was safe. I trusted him. All lies, all paid for. At 5:20 a.m., Linda was in the back of an FBI van staring at her hands. At 5:30 a.m., the 4th team raided the law office of Philip Harlow downtown. Philip wasn't there. It was 5:30 in the morning, but the agents had a warrant for his files. They seized his computer, his email server, printed records going back 2 years. Buried in those files, dozens of emails between Philip and Diego. Instructions on how to set up offshore accounts. Advice on forging documents. Legal loopholes for moving money without triggering federal alerts. Philip Harlow would be disbarred within 6 months. But that morning, agents left a summons taped to his office door appear before a federal grand jury. Failure to comply will result in arrest. At 5:45 a.m., 2 more arrests happened. Margaret Wells, the neighbor who'd claimed I was violent and threatening, opened her door to find 2 agents with a warrant. She didn't resist. She called her lawyer, got dressed, and rode to the federal building in silence. Dr. Sarah Palmer, the disgraced psychiatrist who diagnosed me with dementia without ever meeting me, did the same. Lawyer. Silence. Surrender. By 6 a.m., all 7 suspects were in federal custody. Sophia Kane, Diego Mateo Reyes, Linda Morrison, Margaret Wells, Dr. Sarah Palmer, Philip Harlow, and one more I hadn't expected, Gerald Thompson, the notary, who'd stamped the fake power of attorney. Turns out Diego's cousin had a warrant out for fraud in 2 other states. The FBI grabbed him as a bonus. 7 people, 7 arrests, all within 90 minutes. Torres walked into interview room 2 at 6:15 a.m. and told me it was done. I sat there for a moment, letting it sink in. 4 months of planning, 4 months of waiting, 4 months of letting my daughter think she was winning. And in 90 minutes it was over. They're all in custody, I asked. Every single one, Torres said. Sophia's already demanding a lawyer. Diego's not talking. The fake witnesses are trying to cut deals. And the evidence? Laptop, phones, financial records, $47,000 in cash, 2 firearms, drugs, forged contracts, emails. We've got enough to bury all of them. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly. Good. Torres studied me for a moment. You know, Robert, most fathers would be devastated right now. You just put your daughter in federal prison. I know. And you're okay with that? I looked at him. She tried to eliminate me 3 times. She stole my identity. She forged documents. She recruited criminals. She was going to take everything I had and disappear, leaving me to rot in a cell for crimes I didn't commit. I paused. So yeah, Michael, I'm okay with it. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. He stood, opened the door. Captain Brennan's processing your release now. You're free to go. I walked out of that police station at 7 a.m. The Miami sun was already brutal. The city was waking up. Traffic, coffee shops, people starting their day. Somewhere across town, Sophia was sitting in a holding cell, finally realizing what had happened. 7 people in handcuffs, all because one daughter thought she could outsmart her father. The interrogations began at 7 a.m. I watched them all from the observation room. Torres didn't have to let me in there. Technically, I was a civilian, a victim, not an investigator. But he knew what this case meant to me. Knew I'd spent 4 months building it. So he pulled some strings, signed a waiver, and let me stand behind the one-way mirror while his agents did their work. The observation room was small, dim. Just me, Torres, and an audio feed, piping in every word from the 3 interrogation rooms down the hall. Interview room A, interview room B, interview room C. 3 rooms, 7 suspects, 5 hours. This is what I saw. The first interrogation was Sophia. Agent Sarah Bennett walked into interview room A at exactly 7 a.m. Bennett was good, mid-40s, former prosecutor. The kind of interrogator who doesn't raise her voice, doesn't rush, just asks questions and waits for you to trip over your own lies. Sophia sat at the metal table still wearing the clothes she'd been arrested in. No makeup, hair tangled, hands cuffed in front of her. She looked small, vulnerable. Exactly the image she wanted to project. Bennett sat down across from her, set a file folder on the table. Didn't open it. Ms. Kane, Bennett said. Do you know why you're here? Sophia looked up. Her eyes were red. No. This is all a mistake. I don't understand what's happening. You were arrested for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to harm. Do you understand these charges? I didn't do any of that. Sophia's voice cracked. My father, he's the one who did this. He's been unstable for months, paranoid, accusing me of things I never did. I tried to help him and he turned on me. Bennett nodded slowly, wrote something down. Your father, Robert Kane, former DEA agent, 30 years of service, retired with commendations, no criminal record, no history of mental illness. That's the man you're saying is unstable. Yes. And you're saying he framed you. Yes. Bennett opened the file, pulled out a single sheet of paper, slid it across the table. This is a bank statement. Offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Registered under a shell company called Meridian Holdings, LLC. $180,000 transferred into this account on January 22nd of this year. Your signature is on the transfer authorization. Sophia stared at the paper. That's not my signature. Someone forged it. We'll verify that with a handwriting expert. But let's move on. Bennett pulled out another document. This is a credit card application. Capital One, $50,000 limit. Applied for in November, using your father's social security number, date of birth, and address. The card was sent to a P.O. box in Coral Gables. You're listed as the authorized user. I never applied for that. No. Then how did you make purchases with it? We have receipts, restaurants, boutiques, a plane ticket to the Cayman Islands. Sophia didn't answer. Bennett pulled out a third document. Power of attorney, giving you legal authority to act on your father's behalf, to sign contracts, sell property. The notary listed on this document is Gerald Thompson, Diego Reyes's cousin. We arrested him this morning. He's already confessed that you paid him $500 to stamp this without your father's knowledge. Sophia's jaw tightened. Diego did all of this. Not me. He manipulated me. Told me my father was stealing from me. I trusted him. So Diego opened the credit cards. Yes. And Diego forged the power of attorney. Yes. And Diego transferred money to the Cayman account. Yes. Bennett leaned back. That's interesting, because Diego Mateo Reyes is sitting in interview room B right now, and he's telling a very different story. Sophia went pale. Bennett opened the file one more time, pulled out a photograph, set it on the table. It was a still frame from my kitchen camera. November 18th, 6:47 a.m. Sophia standing at my coffee maker, baggie in hand, powder going into my mug. What is this, Ms. Kane? Sophia stared at the photo. Her mouth opened, closed. No words came out. This is footage from a security camera in your father's kitchen. The timestamp is November 18th. That's you. Adding a substance to your father's coffee. We had that substance tested. Arsenic trioxide. A slow-acting poison that causes kidney and liver failure over several months. Sophia's hands started shaking. Did Diego do that too? Silence. Ms. Kane, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you on November 18th knowingly add a dangerous substance to your father's coffee with the intent to harm him? Sophia looked up. Her eyes were empty, cold. I want a lawyer. Bennett closed the file. That's your right. The interrogation ended at 9:30 a.m. I stood behind the glass, watching Sophia sit there in silence, and felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a strange, hollow quiet. Torres touched my shoulder. You okay? Yeah. What Diego's next? You want to see it? Yes. Interview room B. Agent David Boyd walked in at 7:15 a.m. Diego sat at the table, arms crossed, jaw set. He looked like he'd been in a fight because he had. His left eye was swollen, lip split. Courtesy of resisting arrest, Boyd didn't waste time. He opened a laptop, turned it toward Diego, and hit play. The same video, Sophia, coffee, poison. Diego watched, didn't react. Boyd showed him bank records, wire transfers, offshore accounts. Diego didn't react. Boyd showed him surveillance photos. Diego and Sophia at the rooftop bar. Diego and Sophia at her condo. Diego crawling under my car with a box cutter. Still nothing. 90 minutes of silence. Then Boyd leaned forward. Diego, let me tell you how this plays out. Right now, you're looking at federal charges. Conspiracy to commit fraud. Identity theft. 3 counts of attempted harm. Sabotage. Money laundering. You stack all that up, you're looking at 25 years minimum. You'll be 53 when you get out. If you get out. Diego stared at the table. But here's the thing, Boyd continued. Sophia Kane is in the next room and she's throwing you under the bus, blaming everything on you. Says you manipulated her, forced her, did everything yourself. And if we don't have your side of the story, we might believe her. She's a lawyer. You're a guy with 2 priors and gang ties. Who do you think a jury's going to trust? Diego's jaw tightened. Boyd slid a piece of paper across the table. Or, you cooperate. Tell us everything. Testify against Sophia. And we drop some charges. Get you down to 12 years. Eligible for parole in 8. Diego stared at the paper. 12 years, Boyd said. Versus 25. Your call. At 11:30 a.m., Diego signed the cooperation agreement. Then he started talking. Sophia contacted me in September, last year. We'd hooked up a couple times before that, just casual, you know. But this was different. She showed up at my place one night and laid it all out. Her dad had money, a house, pension, savings. She wanted it now, but he wouldn't give it to her. So she needed help. What kind of help? Boyd asked. She wanted him gone. Not right away. Slow. Make it look natural. She said she had access to his house, knew his routine. All I had to do was get the stuff and set things up. The stuff, not the poison, arsenic. She told me what to buy. I knew a guy who could get it, no questions. Cost me $200. I gave it to Sophia in October. And the brake lines, Diego nodded. February. She called me, said the poison wasn't working fast enough. Wanted something faster. I used to work at a chop shop in Opalaka, I know cars. Cut the brake lines clean. Figured he'd crash on the highway, look like an accident. And the gas leak. On same thing, Valentine's Day. Sophia was getting impatient. Wanted it done. I broke in through the back window, opened the gas valve, left. If he'd stayed asleep another hour. Diego shrugged. House would have blown. And what were you getting out of this? 20%. 300,000. Sophia said once the house sold and the money cleared, we'd split it. Fly to the Caymans. Disappear. Boyd wrote it all down. Every word. Then he looked up. You understand that everything you just told me will be used in court. Against Sophia Kane. Diego met his eyes. Good. She was going to throw me away anyway. Might as well take her down with me. The confession was over by noon. In interview room C, the fake witnesses crumbled even faster. Linda Morrison, Margaret Wells, Dr. Sarah Palmer. 3 interviews, 3 confessions. Linda admitted Sophia paid her $5,000 to pose as a fraud victim. She gave me a script, told me exactly what to say. I'm an actress, I needed the money. I didn't think anyone would get hurt. Margaret admitted Sophia paid her $3,000 to lie about me being violent. She said her father was abusive, that she was trying to protect herself. I believed her, but I never actually saw anything. Dr. Palmer admitted she diagnosed me with dementia without ever meeting me. Sophia sent me fake medical records, paid me $10,000 to sign off on a psychiatric evaluation. I lost my license 3 years ago for insurance fraud. I needed the work. By noon, Torres had 3 signed confessions and Diego's full testimony on record. I stood in that observation room, watching it all unfold, and felt the weight finally lift. 4 months. 4 months of being poisoned. of being sabotaged, of watching my daughter plot to eliminate me and steal everything I'd worked for. And now it was over. Torres turned to me. Robert, we've got enough to put Sophia away for 20 years. Diego for 15. The fake witnesses for 2 to 3 each. It's done. I nodded. Good. You want to see her, Sophia, before we transfer her to holding? I thought about it, then shook my head. No. I said everything I needed to say. Torres understood. By noon, we had 3 confessions and Diego's full testimony. The case was over before it even went to trial. Please note, the next part of this story may include some dramatized elements to enhance the experience and message. If you're enjoying this video, feel free to share it and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. And if this isn't for you, you're always free to stop here. They let me see her one last time before the arraignment. I didn't ask for it. Torres suggested it. Sometimes people need closure, he said. Even when the outcome's already decided. I wasn't sure I wanted closure, but I agreed. At 3 p.m., Agent Sarah Bennett escorted me down a long hallway in the federal building. Concrete walls, fluorescent lights, the kind of place that strips away pretense and leaves only truth. We stopped at a holding cell. Through the reinforced glass window, I could see her. Sophia. She sat on a metal bench, hands cuffed in front of her ankles, shackled. Her hair was tangled, makeup smeared. The designer clothes she'd been arrested in were wrinkled and stained. She looked nothing like the polished lawyer who'd walked into that police station 18 hours ago to file false charges against me. She looked broken. Bennett unlocked the door. 15 minutes, she said. I'll be right outside. I stepped inside. The door closed behind me with a heavy metallic click. Sophia looked up. Her eyes were red and swollen. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, voice hoarse, "You destroyed my life." I pulled out the chair across from her, sat down, didn't break eye contact. "No, Sophia, you destroyed your own life." Her face twisted. "You don't understand. I understand perfectly. You wanted money. You wanted it now. And you were willing to eliminate me to get it. That's not..." She stopped, took a shaky breath. "After Mom died, you stopped caring about me. You buried yourself in work and your routines and your DEA stories. You forgot I existed." I felt something tighten in my chest. Not anger, something deeper. "Is that what you tell yourself?" I asked quietly. "It's the truth." No, it's a lie, and you know it." Sophia looked away. I leaned forward. "After your mother died in 2019, I was here. Every single day. I cooked meals for you when you came to visit. I called you every Sunday. I paid for your law school tuition every cent. I showed up at your graduation. I helped you move into your first apartment. I was there, Sophia. You're the one who stopped answering the phone, because you never really saw me." Her voice cracked. "You saw Mom. You saw your perfect little girl who was supposed to follow all the rules and be grateful and never ask for anything. But I'm not her. I needed more. I needed money. I finished. That's what you needed. Not a father, not family, just money." She stared at the table. Silent. "You had $1.5 million waiting for you," I said. "In a trust fund your mother and I set up when you were born. All you had to do was wait until you turned 35. 3 more years, Sophia. 3 years. Her hands clenched. "I couldn't wait 3 years. "Why not?" "Because She stopped, swallowed hard. "Because I wanted to live now. I wanted the house, the cars, the life I deserved. I didn't want to wait until I was old. So you decided to poison me." Silence. "You decided to steal my identity, forge my signature, hire a criminal to sabotage my car and try to blow up my house. You recruited 3 people to lie about me under oath. You were going to take everything I had, fly to the Cayman Islands, and leave me to rot in prison for crimes I didn't commit." Sophia's shoulders shook. She was crying now. Real tears, not the fake ones she'd performed for the police. And the worst part, I continued, voice steady, is that you convinced yourself you were the victim, that I was the bad guy, that you deserved this. I did deserve it, she whispered. You had so much. The house, the pension. You didn't need it all. It wasn't yours to take. She looked up at me, eyes streaming. I'm your daughter. Doesn't that mean anything? I reached into my pocket, pulled out a small flash drive, set it on the table between us. You see this 47 hours of audio recordings, 200 photographs, 6 months of evidence, every conversation you had with Diego, every time you added poison to my coffee, every dollar you stole, every lie you told. I have all of it, Sophia, because I knew what you were doing from the very beginning, and I let you keep going so I could build an airtight case. She stared at the flash drive like it was a weapon. I spent 4 months gathering evidence against my own daughter, I said. 4 months watching you try to eliminate me. Do you have any idea what that was like? Knowing that the person I raised, the person I loved more than anything in this world, wanted me gone. I didn't want you gone, she said, voice breaking. I wanted the money. You wanted the money. Yes. She was sobbing now. I wanted the money. Diego said it would be easy. He said you'd never know. He said we'd be set for life. And I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because I was tired of waiting, tired of being broke while you sat on millions. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I stood up, picked up the flash drive, looked at her one last time. I love you, Sophia. I always will. But I can't let you destroy me. And I can't pretend this didn't happen. Dad, please. You made your choices. Now you live with the consequences. How long? She whispered. How long will they give me? 20 years. Maybe less with good behavior. You'll be 52 when you get out. Her face went white. 20 years. Yeah, that's what happens when you try to eliminate someone and steal everything they own. I walked to the door, knocked twice. Bennett opened it from the outside. Behind me, Sophia screamed, Dad! Dad, please, don't leave me here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I stepped into the hallway. The door closed behind me, muffling her cries. Bennett looked at me. You okay? I nodded. Didn't trust myself to speak. We walked back down the hallway in silence. Behind us, I could still hear her. Faint. Desperate. Calling for me. I didn't look back. That was the last time I spoke to my daughter. The trial of United States versus Sophia Marie Cain began on September 3, 2024, 5.5 months after her arrest. I sat in the front row of the gallery behind the prosecution table and watched my daughter walk into the federal courtroom in Miami. She wore a navy blue suit, hair pulled back, no jewelry. Her lawyer had dressed her to look professional, sympathetic. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, spectators, people who'd followed the case in the news. Judge Amanda Reynolds entered, mid-50s, sharp eyes, 20 years on the federal bench. All rise. Everyone stood. Reynolds took her seat. We're here for the trial of United States versus Sophia Marie Cain. The defendant is charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, 3 counts of conspiracy to cause serious harm, conspiracy to commit money laundering and obstruction of justice. Ms. Cain, how do you plead? Sophia stood. Not guilty, Your Honor. Very well. Mr. Whitaker, you may proceed. Assistant U.S. Attorney James Whitaker rose. Early 40s, former Marine. Precise. Methodical. He walked to the jury box. Ladies and gentlemen, over the next week, you're going to hear a story that sounds impossible. A daughter who spent 6 months slowly poisoning her father to steal his money. who hired a criminal to sabotage his car, who tried to stage a gas leak, who forged documents and recruited fake witnesses to frame him. He paused. You're going to think no one would do that. But the evidence will show you that Sophia Kane did exactly that. We will present video footage of her adding poison to her father's coffee. Bank records showing she stole $300,000. Testimony from the man she hired, who will tell you how she planned every step. By the end of this trial, you will have no doubt that Sophia Kane is guilty. He sat down. Philip Harlow stood Sophia's defense attorney, mid-50s, expensive suit, hired with my stolen money. Ladies and gentlemen, Robert Kane is a former DEA agent. 30 years of undercover work. Trained in surveillance manipulation building cases. A man who spent 6 months secretly recording his daughter and fabricating evidence to frame her. Harlow walked to the jury. Sophia Kane is not a criminal. She's a victim of her father's paranoia. The poison a supplement for his health. The forged documents misunderstandings. By the end of this trial, you will see that the only criminal here is Robert Kane. He sat down. The jury looked skeptical. Good. Day 2 was numbers. An FBI forensic accountant testified for 3 hours. 5 credit card accounts in my name. $300,000 in fraud. Wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. A forged power of attorney used to sell my house. Harlow tried cross-examination. Isn't it possible someone else opened these accounts? The applications came from IP addresses, traced to Ms. Kane's residence and workplace. The cards went to a P.O. box under her name. The offshore account lists her as beneficial owner. The jury took notes. Some looked at Sophia. She stared at the table. Day 3 was Dr. Helen Vasquez. Dr. Vasquez, what did you find when you tested the substance Mr. Kane provided? Arsenic trioxide. Highly dangerous. If ingested regularly, it causes kidney failure, liver damage. Death within 8 to 12 months. Was the concentration fatal? Absolutely. Based on the pattern Mr. Kane described, he would have experienced organ failure within 3 to 6 months. Harlow tried. Isn't arsenic found in some herbal supplements? In trace amounts, not this concentration. This was pure arsenic trioxide. Harlow sat down. Day 4 was my turn. I took the stand at 9 a.m. The courtroom was silent. Whitaker walked me through everything. November 2023. The strange taste, the headaches, installing cameras, watching the video of Sophia adding powder to my mug. Then Whitaker pulled out a laptop, connected it to the projection system. Mr. Kane, is this the video you recorded? Yes. Your Honor, we'd like to play Exhibit A. Reynolds nodded. Proceed. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up. November 18th, 6:47 a.m. My kitchen. Sophia walking in, reaching into her purse, pulling out the baggie, adding powder to my mug, stirring, leaving. 43 seconds, crystal clear. The courtroom was silent. Not a sound. When it ended, Whitaker let the silence hang. Mr. Kane, is that your daughter adding arsenic to your coffee? Yes. No further questions. Harlow stood for cross-examination. Mr. Kane, you have extensive surveillance experience. You could have manipulated this video. The FBI verified the metadata. The file is unaltered. You could have staged it, had your daughter add something harmless. The lab tested it. Arsenic trioxide. The FBI collected additional samples from her apartment during the raid. All positive. Harlow had nothing. He sat down. Day 5 was Diego. He walked in wearing shackles, orange jumpsuit. No longer confident. He looked smaller, beaten. Whitaker walked him through his confession. What did Ms. Kane offer you? $300,000. 20% of the inheritance. What did you do? Got the poison. Arsenic. Gave it to Sophia in October. Then in February, I cut Mr. Kane's brake lines. Then Valentine's Day broke into his house, opened the gas valve. If he'd stayed asleep another hour, the place would have blown. Did Ms. Kane ever express concern for her father? Diego shook his head. No. She said he was old, wouldn't fight back, that it would be easy. The jury's faces changed. I saw it. The moment they stopped seeing Sophia as a victim, Sophia sat frozen, face pale, hands clenched. Harlow tried cross-examination. Mr. Reyes, you're testifying for a reduced sentence. You have reason to lie. Diego looked at him. I got text messages, bank transfers, photos of me and Sophia planning this. The FBI has all of it. I'm telling the truth. Harlow sat down. The jury looked at Sophia. She didn't look back. Day 6 belonged to the fake witnesses, and they all broke. I sat in the gallery watching the prosecution call them one by one. 3 people Sophia had paid to lie for her. 3 people who'd been willing to destroy my reputation for money. Now they stood in a federal courtroom under oath facing perjury charges if they didn't tell the truth. The first witness was Linda Morrison. She walked to the stand wearing a simple dress. No makeup. Hair pulled back. She looked nothing like the confident actress I'd seen in Marcus Reed's surveillance photos. She looked terrified. Whitaker stood. Ms. Morrison, please state your occupation for the record. I'm an actress. Her voice was quiet. Or I was. I haven't worked much lately. And how do you know the defendant, Sophia Kane? Linda glanced at Sophia, then away. I don't. I mean, I didn't. Not before she hired me. Hired you to do what? To pretend I was someone Mr. Kane had defrauded. To play a victim. A murmur went through the gallery. Judge Reynolds tapped her gavel once. Silence returned. Whitaker pulled out a document. Ms. Morrison, I'm showing you Exhibit 47. Do you recognize this? Linda looked at the paper. Her face went pale. Yes. What is it? It's an email from Sophia Kane with instructions on what to say. Can you read the subject line for the jury? Linda's hands shook. Script for police statement. Whitaker had the email projected onto the courtroom screen. The jury leaned forward, reading. The email was detailed, specific. It told Linda exactly what to say. He promised to invest my money in a real estate fund. He said it was safe, guaranteed returns. I trusted him because he was former law enforcement. Then he stopped returning my calls. I lost everything. All lies, written by Sophia. Ms. Morrison, did any of that actually happen? No. I've never met Mr. Kane. I've never given him money. Sophia paid me $5,000 to memorize that script and repeat it to the police. Why did you agree? Linda's eyes filled with tears. Because I needed the money. I'm behind on rent. I haven't booked an acting job in 8 months. Sophia said it was just a family dispute, that her father was trying to control her inheritance. She made it sound harmless. I didn't think anyone would really get hurt. Sure, but you knew you were lying to law enforcement. Yes. Linda's voice broke. I knew, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Whitaker nodded. No further questions. Harlow stood for cross-examination. He tried. Ms. Morrison, you just admitted you lied to the FBI. Why should this jury believe anything you say now? Linda looked at him. Because I'm telling the truth now. I'm under oath, and I know I'm going to prison for what I did. I have nothing to gain by lying anymore. Harlow sat down. He had nothing. The second witness was Margaret Wells. She was 55, gray hair, cardigan sweater. She looked like someone's grandmother, the kind of neighbor who bakes cookies and waters your plants when you're on vacation. She was also a liar. Whitaker walked her through it gently. Ms. Wells, you live 2 houses down from Mr. Kane, correct? Yes. And you told police that you'd witnessed Mr. Kane acting violently toward his daughter, screaming, making threats. Is that correct? Margaret's hands twisted in her lap. Yes, that's what I said. Was it true? A long pause, then quietly, no. And you never saw Mr. Kane act violently? No, I barely know him. We wave when we see each other. That's it. I've never heard him raise his voice. Then why did you tell police otherwise? Margaret's voice trembled. Sophia came to my house in February. Said her father was abusive, that she was trying to protect herself, but no one would believe her without witnesses. She asked if I'd be willing to say I'd seen him threaten her. She offered me $3,000, and you accepted. Yes. Margaret wiped her eyes. I'm on a fixed income, Social Security. I have credit card debt almost $12,000. I was desperate. I thought it was just a family dispute. I didn't know she was trying to. She stopped. Couldn't finish. But trying to what Ms. Wells, trying to frame him for crimes he didn't commit. Trying to have him arrested. Whitaker let that sit. Did Sophia Kane ever show you any evidence that her father was actually abusive? No. Did you ever witness any abuse yourself? No. So you lied to law enforcement based solely on what Sophia told you in exchange for $3,000. Margaret nodded, crying now. Yes. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. Harlow didn't even try to cross-examine. He waved her off. The third witness was Dr. Sarah Palmer. She walked to the stand slowly. Mid-40s, professional clothes. But her hands shook as she raised them to take the oath. Whitaker didn't waste time. Dr. Palmer, you provided a psychiatric evaluation of Mr. Kane to Sophia Kane's legal team, correct? Yes. In that evaluation, you diagnosed Mr. Kane with dementia and cognitive decline. You recommended he be evaluated for competency. Is that correct? Yes. When did you examine Mr. Kane? Dr. Palmer looked down. I didn't. The courtroom went completely still. You didn't examine him? No. You diagnosed a man with a serious mental illness without ever meeting him, speaking to him, or conducting any kind of evaluation? Yes. Her voice was barely a whisper. How is that possible? Dr. Palmer took a shaky breath. Sophia Kane contacted me in January. She said her father was showing signs of dementia, memory loss, confusion, paranoia. She asked if I could provide a professional opinion based on the medical records she'd give me. And did she provide records? Yes. But I later learned they were fabricated. Fake symptoms, fake test results. She created them to make it look like her father was declining. And you signed off on a diagnosis based on fake records. Yes. Why? Dr. Palmer's face crumpled. Because she paid me $10,000. And because I lost my medical license in 2021 for insurance fraud. I can't practice anymore. I have student loans, mortgage payments. I was desperate. She started crying, real ugly crying. Dr. Palmer, do you understand that you provided false testimony that could have been used to have Mr. Kane declared incompetent to strip him of his legal rights? Yes. She could barely get the words out. I know what I did. I'm so sorry. Judge Reynolds leaned forward. Dr. Palmer, I want you to understand something. You may face additional charges for this. Perjury, fraud, obstruction of justice. Do you understand? Dr. Palmer nodded, still crying. Yes, Your Honor. Whitaker turned to the jury. No further questions. Harlow stood, tried one last time. Your Honor, the prosecution just paraded 3 admitted liars in front of this jury. People who confessed to deceiving law enforcement. Why should the jury believe any of them? Whitaker rose. Your Honor, may I respond? Reynolds nodded. Proceed. Whitaker faced the jury. Mr. Harlow asks why you should believe these witnesses. Here's why. Because they're not just confessing, they're providing evidence. Linda Morrison's email from Sophia with the script. Margaret Wells's bank records showing the $3,000 payment. Dr. Palmer's fake medical reports with Sophia's digital fingerprints all over them. These people aren't asking you to take their word for it. They're showing you the receipts. He walked back to the prosecution table. The defense wants you to think these witnesses are unreliable. But they're only unreliable when they're lying for Sophia Kane. Now they're telling the truth, and the evidence proves it. Harlow had nothing left to say. He sat down. The jury looked at Sophia. She sat frozen at the defense table. Her lawyer leaned over, whispered something. She didn't respond, just stared straight ahead. 3 witnesses, 3 confessions, 3 piles of evidence. Sophia's defense collapsed in one afternoon. Day 7 belonged to Philip Harlow. It was his last shot at saving Sophia. I sat in the same gallery seat I'd occupied for 6 days, watching my daughter stare at the defense table while her lawyer stood and called his only witness back to the stand. Diego Mateo Reyes walked to the witness box in his orange jumpsuit, wrists cuffed in front of him. He'd already testified for the prosecution on day 5. Now Harlow was going to try to tear him apart. Mr. Reyes. Harlow began, his voice sharp. You have 2 prior convictions for assault and fraud, correct? Yes, sir. Diego's voice was calm. And you signed a cooperation agreement with the government that reduced your sentence from 25 years to 12 years. Isn't that right? Yes, sir. So you have every reason to lie, don't you? To say whatever the prosecution wants in order to save yourself. Diego looked straight at him. I'm not lying. Harlow smirked. You expect this jury to believe a career criminal who cut a deal to save his own skin. James Whitaker stood. Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative. Sustained. Judge Reynolds said. Mr. Harlow, ask a question. Harlow turned back to Diego. Mr. Reyes, how much money did my client allegedly promise you? $300,000. 20% of the total. And you claim she hired you to poison her father, sabotage his car, and stage a gas leak, all for money she didn't even have yet. She told me the house sale would close in March. The money was coming. Harlow leaned on the witness box. Or maybe you planned the whole thing, manipulated a young woman, and now you're blaming her to get a lighter sentence. Diego didn't flinch. I have proof. Harlow paused. Excuse me, I kept everything, Diego said. Messages, photos, recordings. I knew this day might come. Whitaker stood again. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to introduce supplemental exhibits. Judge Reynolds nodded. Proceed. A paralegal wheeled a cart to the prosecution table. Whitaker lifted a thick binder. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, what you're about to see is Exhibit 47, a record of over 300 text messages between Diego Reyes and Sophia Kane, spanning from September 2023 to March 2024. He placed a printed stack on the projector. The first message appeared on the screen. Sophia, September 18, 2023, 11:42 p.m. I need help with something. Can we meet? Diego, September 18, 2023, 11:58 p.m. What kind of help? Sophia, September 19, 2023, 12:03 a.m. The kind that pays well. Whitaker scrolled through dozens more. Planning messages, timeline discussions, instructions about break lines. A message from February 5th that read, Make it look like an accident. No one can know. The jury leaned forward. 2 of them were taking notes. Whitaker clicked to the next exhibit. Exhibit 48, a photograph taken by Mr. Reyes on January 10, 2024, at a parking garage in Brickell. The image filled the screen. Sophia standing beside Diego's car, handing him a thick envelope. You could see the edges of cash inside. Mr. Reyes, Whitaker said, "What is that?" $20,000, Diego answered. Down payment. She gave it to me in hundreds. Harlow stood. Objection. This photo could be anything. Your Honor. Whitaker interrupted. We have the envelope. We have the bills. The serial numbers match a withdrawal Sophia Kane made from her offshore account on January 8th. It's in the financial records already entered into evidence. Judge Reynolds looked at Harlow. Overruled. Harlow sat down. His face was pale. Whitaker wasn't finished. Exhibit 49, an audio recording made by Mr. Reyes on February 5, 2024, the same day the defendant's father's brake lines were cut. He pressed play. Sophia's voice filled the courtroom. You're sure this will work? Diego's voice. Yeah. Brake fluid drains out slow. By the time he's on the highway, nothing's gonna stop him. What if he survives? He won't. A pause. Then Sophia again, quieter this time. Make it look like an accident. I can't have anyone asking questions. The recording ended. The courtroom was silent. I felt my hands grip the edge of the bench. I'd heard that audio before in Torres's office back in March. But hearing it again in front of 12 strangers and a judge made it real in a way it hadn't been before. Whitaker walked back to the witness stand. Mr. Reyes, in your conversations with Sophia Kane, did she ever explain why she wanted her father gone? Diego nodded. She said her dad was old, that he wouldn't fight back, that we'd take the money and disappear and no one would ever know. He looked directly at the jury. She said, my father's getting old. He won't be able to fight back. We take the money, we disappear. Nobody will know. The courtroom erupted. Gasps. Whispers. One juror covered her mouth. Sophia didn't move. She stared at the table, her hands folded in her lap. Judge Reynolds banged her gavel. Order. Whitaker turned to Harlow. Your witness. Harlow stood slowly. He asked a few more questions, weak ones, desperate ones. But Diego didn't crack. The messages were real. The photo was real. The recording was real. At 11:20 a.m., Whitaker rested the prosecution's case. Judge Reynolds looked at Harlow. Does the defense wish to call any witnesses? Harlow glanced at Sophia. She shook her head once, barely perceptible. No, Your Honor, Harlow said. The defense rests. Sophia wasn't going to testify. She knew that the moment she took the stand, Whitaker would destroy her. Day 8, closing arguments. The next morning, James Whitaker stood in front of the jury and laid it out one last time. This was not a crime of passion, he said. This was not an accident. This was a calculated, premeditated plan to end a man's life for money. Sophia Kane poisoned her father. She hired a man to sabotage his car. She staged a gas leak in his home. She forged documents. She stole his identity. She planned to flee the country with over $1.5 million. He paused. And when that plan failed, she tried to send him to prison instead. He gestured toward me. Robert Kane is alive today because he spent 30 years learning how to survive. He knew his daughter was trying to take him out, and he built a case video audio financial records witness testimony to stop her. Whitaker looked each juror in the eye. Sophia Kane is guilty. The evidence proves it. Your job is to hold her accountable. Harlow's closing was shorter. He argued that Sophia had been manipulated by Diego, that she was young and naive, that she'd made mistakes, but hadn't intended real harm. No one in that jury box believed him. The verdict. The jury deliberated for 11 hours. On September 12, 2024, at 3:15 in the afternoon, we all filed back into the courtroom. Sophia stood between her lawyer and a federal marshal. Her hands were cuffed in front of her. Judge Reynolds looked at the jury. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman, a middle-aged man in a blue shirt, stood. We have, Your Honor. Please read it. He unfolded a piece of paper. His voice was steady. We, the jury, find the defendant, Sophia Marie Kane, guilty on all counts. The word guilty echoed through the courtroom. Sophia didn't move. She stood between her lawyer and a federal marshal, hands cuffed in front of her, staring straight ahead. No tears, no protest, just silence. Judge Amanda Reynolds thanked the jury and dismissed them. The trial was over. Sentencing would come in 3 weeks. I walked out of that courthouse alone. I didn't look back. September 12, 2024. The verdict. The jury had deliberated for 11 hours. When they returned at 3:15 that afternoon, the foreman read the decision on all 7 counts. Count 1, wire fraud, guilty. Count 2, identity theft, guilty. Count 3, conspiracy to cause serious harm, poisoning, guilty. Count 4, conspiracy to cause serious harm, break, sabotage, guilty. Count 5, conspiracy to cause serious harm, gas leak, guilty. Count 6, money laundering, guilty. Count 7, obstruction of justice, guilty. James Whitaker stood and thanked the jury. Philip Harlow sat in silence. Sophia was led out of the courtroom in handcuffs, escorted by 2 U.S. Marshals. I stayed in my seat until the room emptied. Then I walked to my car, drove home, and waited. October 1st, 2024, sentencing day. 3 weeks later, we were back in the same courtroom. This time there was no jury. Just the judge, the lawyers, Sophia, and me. Judge Reynolds entered at 10 a.m. sharp. Everyone stood. She took her seat, adjusted her glasses, and opened a file. "See, Ms. Kane," she said, looking directly at my daughter. "You have been found guilty on 7 federal counts. Before I impose sentence, I want to make something clear." She paused. The room was silent. This was not a crime of desperation. This was not a mistake. This was a calculated, deliberate, months-long plan to end your father's life for financial gain. You poisoned him. You sabotaged his vehicle. You staged a gas leak. You forged documents in his name. You recruited accomplices. And when your plan failed, you attempted to use the justice system to imprison him instead. Reynolds leaned forward. "You are a licensed attorney. You took an oath to uphold the law. Instead, you weaponized it." Sophia stared at the table. The federal sentencing guidelines recommend 15 to 20 years for crimes of this nature. Reynolds continued. "The prosecution has asked for the maximum. The defense has asked for leniency." She closed the file. "I see no reason for leniency." Reynolds looked at the court reporter. "The defendant, Sophia Marie Kane, is hereby sentenced to 20 years in federal prison to be served at a facility designated by the Bureau of Prisons." My daughter didn't react. Additionally, Reynolds said, "The defendant will be eligible for parole after 17 years in the year 2041. She is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $300,000 to the victim, Robert Kane. She is permanently disbarred from practicing law in the United States." Reynolds set down her pen. "Ms. Kane, you had every advantage. A father who loved you, an education, a career. And you chose greed. You will have 17 years to think about that choice." She looked at the marshal. "Remove the defendant." 2 officers stepped forward. Sophia stood. They led her toward the side door. She turned once just before she disappeared. Her eyes met mine. I didn't look away. I didn't look back. I just watched her go. Co-conspirator sentencing. Over the next 2 weeks, the rest of them were sentenced. Diego Mateo Reyes appeared in court on October 8th. Because he'd cooperated and testified against Sophia, his sentence was reduced from 25 years to 12 years in federal prison. He was also ordered to pay $50,000 in restitution money I knew I'd never see. Judge Reynolds told him he was lucky to avoid a longer term. Diego nodded and was led away in shackles. Linda Morrison, the actress who'd agreed to pose as a fraud victim, was sentenced to 2 years in federal prison for perjury and conspiracy. She cried during sentencing, apologized to me, and said she'd only done it because she needed money. The judge wasn't moved. Linda was taken into custody immediately. Margaret Wells, the neighbor who'd claimed I'd threatened her, received the same 2 years. She stood before the judge and admitted she'd lied for $3,000 because she was behind on her mortgage. Reynolds told her that lying under oath wasn't a solution to financial problems. Margaret left the courtroom in tears. Dr. Sarah Palmer, the disgraced psychiatrist who diagnosed me with dementia without ever meeting me, got the harshest sentence among the fake witnesses, 3 years in federal prison. On top of that, she was permanently barred from practicing medicine anywhere in the United States. She'd already lost her license in 2021. Now she'd lost her freedom too. Philip Harlow, Sophia's lawyer, wasn't sentenced to prison, but his career was over. The Florida bar held a disciplinary hearing in mid-October and found that he'd knowingly accepted money from Diego Reyes to represent Sophia, despite clear evidence of fraud and conspiracy. On October 22, 2024, Philip Harlow was disbarred. He lost his law license, his firm, and his reputation. I heard later that he moved out of state. Restitution reality. By March 2025, 5 months after sentencing, I'd received a single restitution check, $25,000. The court had ordered Sophia to pay me $300,000. Diego owed $50,000. The fake witnesses owed smaller amounts. In total, the court had ordered over $400,000 in restitution. But here's the reality. People in federal prison don't earn much. Sophia was making 12 cents an hour working in the prison laundry. Diego was in a different facility doing the same. Linda Margaret and Dr. Palmer had no assets to seize. The $25,000 I received came from the government seizure of Sophia's offshore account, the one she'd opened in the Cayman Islands under the shell company Meridian Holdings, LLC. That account had held $180,000 when the FBI froze it in March 2024. Most of it went to legal fees, federal fines, and victim compensation funds. I got what was left. I didn't care about the money. I'd already recovered my savings, my house, and my credit. The restitution was symbolic. It was the justice system saying you were the victim. You are owed. $25,000 was enough. The last moment. I think about that last moment in the courtroom a lot. Sophia standing in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed behind her back, turning to look at me one final time before the marshals led her through the side door. Her face was blank. Not angry, not sad, just empty. I'd spent 4 months gathering evidence. I'd let her poison me, sabotage my car, and try to blow up my house, all so I could catch her in the act. I'd handed the FBI everything they needed to arrest 7 people in a single morning. I'd testified in court. I'd listened to Diego describe how my daughter had hired him to end my life. And when the judge sentenced her to 20 years, I felt nothing. No relief, no satisfaction, no closure. Just the weight of knowing that the person I'd raised, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike and helped through law school, had looked me in the eye and chosen money over me. They led her away in handcuffs. She turned to look at me one last time. I didn't look back. 1 year had passed since they put me in handcuffs. March 2025. I was 63 years old, living in the same house in Miami Beach, where my daughter had tried to end my life. The house I'd bought back after the fraudulent sale was voided. The house where I'd installed military-grade cameras and recorded 47 hours of evidence. Some mornings, I still checked the coffee pot before I drank from it. Old habits. Financial recovery. By March 2025, my financial situation had stabilized. My credit score had climbed back to 780, not perfect, but solid. The 5 fraudulent credit card accounts Sophia had opened in my name were closed and removed from my record. The debt collectors stopped calling. The IRS accepted my amended tax returns. My net worth sat at $3.2 million, the house valued at $1.2 million, my pension from 30 years. With the DEA savings and a consulting contract I'd signed in November, the DEA's Organized Crime Division had hired me as an independent analyst, reviewing cartel financial networks and training younger agents on undercover tactics. It paid $150,000 a year part-time, and I could do most of it from home. I didn't need the money. I took the job because I needed something to do. The $25,000 in restitution I'd received went straight into a separate account. I hadn't touched it. I didn't know if I ever would. Daily routine. I woke up every morning at 6 o'clock. No alarm. My body had learned the rhythm over 3 decades of fieldwork, early mornings, late nights, always alert. I'd make a pot of coffee, black, no sugar, and sit on the back deck overlooking the water. The sun would rise over Biscayne Bay, and for 20 minutes I'd just watch. Then I'd swim, a kilometer straight out into the bay and back. The water was cold in the mornings, even in Florida, and it kept me sharp. When I was younger, I used to run 5 miles a day. Now at 63, swimming was easier on my knees. By 8 o'clock, I'd be back at my desk reviewing case files for the DEA or reading. I'd gotten into Stoic philosophy over the winter, Marcus Aurelius Epictetus Seneca. The idea that you can't control what happens to you, only how you respond, resonated. I'd spent 4 months letting my daughter poison me so I could build a case. That took control, but I still didn't know if I'd responded the right way. Evenings were quiet. I'd cook dinner, usually something simple, grilled fish or pasta, and eat alone. Sometimes I'd turn on the news. Most nights I'd read until I fell asleep. It was a calm life, a controlled life. It didn't feel like enough. Social life. Marcus Reed stopped by once a week, usually on Saturday mornings. He'd bring coffee from a Cuban place in Little Havana, and we'd sit on the deck and talk. He never asked about Sophia. I appreciated that. We'd talk about cases, old DEA stories, his grandson's little league games, normal things, safe things. I didn't have a romantic relationship. I hadn't dated since Maria died in 2019, and I didn't see that changing. A few neighbors had tried to set me up over the years. You need to get out more, Robert. But I wasn't interested. I'd had one great love in my life. That was enough. The neighbors kept their distance now. They knew what had happened. A few had testified during the trial. Margaret Wells, the woman who'd lied for $3,000, lived 4 houses down. She'd been released from prison in December after serving 8 months. We didn't speak. Most people in the neighborhood didn't know what to say to me. "I'm sorry your daughter tried to eliminate you," isn't a greeting card sentiment. So they nodded politely when they saw me and kept walking. I didn't blame them. Psychological state. In January, I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Raymond Booth, a retired Navy psychologist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. The DEA had recommended him after I told Torres I was having trouble sleeping. I wasn't having nightmares. I wasn't afraid. I just couldn't turn my brain off. Every night I'd lie in bed and replay the timeline, the coffee, the brake lines, the gas leak, the fake witnesses, the trial, the sentencing. I'd analyze what I could have done differently, whether I'd missed warning signs, whether I'd been a bad father. Dr. Booth diagnosed me with mild PTSD, not from the poisoning or the sabotage, but from the betrayal itself. "Your brain is trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense," he said. "A daughter trying to end her father's life for money. There's no logic to it. So your mind keeps searching." We met once a month. He taught me breathing exercises, cognitive reframing techniques, ways to manage intrusive thoughts. It helped a little, but the truth was, I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel satisfaction. I just felt tired. And I felt the loss. Not of Sophia, the person who'd poisoned me and hired Diego and framed me for fraud. I didn't miss her. I missed the daughter I thought I had. The one who didn't exist. Sophia's letters. Sophia was serving her sentence at FCY Coleman, a federal women's prison in Central Florida, about 4 hours north of Miami. She'd sent me 3 letters. The first arrived in December 2024, 2 months after sentencing. A plain white envelope with the prison's return address stamped in the corner. I'd held it in my hands for 10 minutes, staring at her handwriting on the front. Then I put it in my desk drawer unopened. The second letter came in January. The third in February. I didn't open those either. I didn't throw them away. I wasn't ready to read them, but I also wasn't ready to destroy them. So they sat in the drawer, lined up side by side, waiting. I told Dr. Booth about the letters during one of our sessions. "Do you want to read them?" he asked. "I don't know." "What do you think they say?" I thought about it. Probably that she's sorry, that Diego manipulated her, that she never meant for things to go that far, that she loves me. "Do you believe any of that?" "No." He nodded. "Then maybe it doesn't matter what they say. Maybe he was right." March 15th, 2025. The fourth letter. It was a Thursday night when the fourth letter arrived. I'd just finished dinner, grilled mahi-mahi and a salad, and was reading on the deck when I heard the mail truck pull up. I walked to the mailbox, sorted through the usual bills and junk, and found it at the bottom of the stack. Same white envelope, same prison stamp, same handwriting. I carried it inside, set it on the kitchen counter, and stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to open it, to see what she had to say after 5 months in federal prison, to know if she'd changed, if she understood what she'd done, if there was any piece of the daughter I remembered still left inside her. But another part of me, the part that had spent 4 months gathering evidence, the part that had testified in court, the part that had watched her get led away in handcuffs, didn't care. She'd made her choices. I'd made mine. I opened the desk drawer and placed the fourth letter next to the other 3. Then I closed the drawer and went to bed. Maybe in another year I'd be ready to read them. Maybe not. This is the kind of grandpa stories you never want to have to tell your own children. A family story that doesn't end with forgiveness, reconciliation, or a happy reunion, just 4 unopened letters sitting in a desk drawer and a daughter serving 20 years in federal prison. I'm Robert Kane, 63 years old, retired DEA agent, and the man whose own daughter tried to poison him for a $1.5 million inheritance she couldn't wait 3 more years to claim. Looking back now, I see the warning signs I ignored. The way Sophia's eyes lit up when we talked about money. The way she asked again and again about my will, my pension, my assets. The way she became distant after her mother died, like she'd lost the only thing anchoring her to decency. I made excuses. She's grieving, she's stressed, she's young. I was wrong. Here's what I learned from this family story lessons. I hope you never have to learn the hard way. Trust is fragile, but it's not blind. I loved my daughter. I gave her everything. But love doesn't mean ignoring red flags. If someone you trust starts acting strangely around money, pay attention. Don't make excuses. Patience is power. I could have called the police the first time she poisoned my coffee. Instead, I waited. I gathered 47 hours of audio, 200 photos, 6 months of financial records. I built a case so airtight that she had no escape. Justice takes time. Revenge is fast. I chose justice. Greed destroys everything. Sophia had a career, an education, a father who loved her, and a trust fund waiting for her at 35. She threw it all away because she wanted the money now. Impatience and greed cost her 2 decades of freedom. Some wounds don't heal. A year later, I'm alive. My credit score is back to 780. I have $3.2 million in assets and a consulting contract with the DEA. But I'll never be the same. Betrayal by a stranger is survivable. Betrayal by your own child leaves a scar that never fades. If you're reading this Grandpa Stories collection and wondering what to take away, here's my advice. Don't ignore your instincts. If something feels wrong, investigate. Don't wait until it's too late. Don't let anyone, family included, take advantage of you. Blood doesn't give someone the right to destroy your life. Don't let bitterness consume you. I could spend the rest of my life hating Sophia. Instead, I've chosen to move forward. God gave me a second chance at life when I survived her plot. I won't waste it on anger. This family story isn't about redemption. It's about survival justice and the painful reality that sometimes the people you love the most are the ones who hurt you the deepest. Sometimes survival is enough. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. I'd really appreciate hearing your thoughts. What would you do if you discovered someone close to you, maybe even a family member, was plotting against you for financial gain? Drop a comment and share your perspective. If this story resonated with you or made you think, consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss future grandpa stories like this one. A quick disclaimer. While this narrative draws inspiration from real-world cases of family betrayal and financial crimes, certain elements have been dramatized for storytelling purposes. If this type of content isn't for you, feel free to check out other videos that might suit your preferences better.